Well, good morning again. Welcome, great souls. My name's Bryan. This is my great friend and wife, Carmenza, and it's our honor to be sharing an understanding of these teachings with you today. I'm going to read from Rays of the One Light, which are weekly commentaries on the Bible and the Bhagavad Gita by Swami Kriyananda. And this is week 18 on this beautiful last day of April. Welcome, friends online, too. It's called Perfection is Self-Transcendence. Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda. We begin this week with a passage from the Gospel of St. Matthew, chapter 5. Love your enemies, bless them that curse you, do good to them that hate you, and pray for them which despitefully use you and persecute you. If ye love them which love you, what reward have ye? Do not even the tax collectors do the same? And if ye salute your brethren only, what do ye more than others? Do not even pagans do so? Be ye therefore perfect, even as your Father which is in heaven is perfect. This teaching is a continuation of last week's lesson. To love all equally is possible only by seeing God everywhere, in others as well as in oneself. See whatever comes to you unasked for as a manifestation of His will. Be grateful for the pains you experience, for they are healing strokes of His love. Sometimes healing is effected only by strong measures, but His love for you is manifested in the very attempt to heal. Strive always to be impersonal, as though whatever happens to you were happening to somebody else. Persecution gives us the supreme opportunity to deny the thought, this is happening to me, and to affirm our inner freedom from the thought of ego. Don't allow the negative perceptions of others to become your own self-definition. Seek God. This is the true goal of life, though how difficult to cling to in the midst of hatred, spite, and persecution. The Bhagavad Gita tells us in the 7th chapter, out of thousands one strives for spiritual attainment, and out of many blessed truth seekers who strive assiduously to reach me, one, perhaps, perceives me as I am. O truth seeker, be one among all those thousands who seeks the supreme goal. Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind. Om, Om, Om. Well, these are two potentially very discouraging passages that we're reading today. The Bible saying, be ye perfect as your Father in heaven is perfect, and the Bhagavad Gita saying, out of the thousands and thousands that seek me, perhaps one will attain me. But of course, they're not told to us except as a description of the reality of the spiritual struggle and the spiritual path. And just as Swami talks about there being different kinds of courage, I think we also have to think about there being different kinds of perfection. And really, the perfection that is being spoken of here is not advice. Jesus is talking to his disciples. He's not saying, hey, it's a good idea to be perfect like your Father is. He's not really even giving it as advice. He's giving it as a commandment. He's saying, if you are a disciple, if you want to get there, be thou perfect. Now, there's a lot of confusion in our culture about perfection. Everything that we seek, almost everything that we seek these days, outwardly is for the perfect vacation, the perfect job, the perfect car, the perfect house. I work with people of all ages, but I serve primarily people who are in their 20s, and I just read a statistic that was a little bit alarming to me in the sense that this culture of always wanting to obtain perfection is so disseminated so frequently. The average amount of time that people in their 20s spend online is 7 hours a day, and 5 hours a day of that is on social media. Now, social media is benign. Don't get me wrong that it's anything but benign. It is what it is. But the temptation for all of us online is to present and catalog our lives. And of course, it's always the striving to show perfect life. My perfect set of friends, I'm having the perfect meal, I'm having the perfect lifestyle. And this confusion is not at all limited to people in their 20s, but we have to, if we're going to take this spiritual path seriously, the problem with social media is the same problem with almost everything else, is that it'll hook our ego into it. And if we are not honest with ourselves about the struggles that we have and the battles that we have, and only put our best foot forward. I mean, there's nothing wrong with putting your best foot forward, but really it comes down to our internal struggle about whether we can have any room for this very difficult struggle. Yogananda and really all the great ones tell us that life in this planet, in this plane, life is about change. It's almost constant change. The Buddha says the only constant is change. And that change is very scary to us. There's a way in which we are kind of hardwired for safety and security. We're also hardwired for finding God. Our nervous system is designed excellently for finding God. But we have this other part that's hardwired for always wanting security and safety. And the problem with reaching towards God and embracing change, whatever comes to you, like the reading's saying, whatever tragedies or persecutions come to you, is we would rather stay with, Yogananda says we would rather, well, let me start the full quote. Yogananda says it takes courage to renounce a familiar pain for an unknown and therefore uncertain happiness. That we have this preference and resistance to change that makes us cling to difficulties. And he's saying beneficial changes should be embraced with courage, because very little about our inner guidance is going to reassure us about our safety and security. So it's so lovely that Swami gives us this definition, 4 definitions really, of courage. Because just like with perfection, we get confused about what courage really entails. And he's talking about divine courage. And one of the messages from both the Bible and the Gita, is that the spiritual path is not for people who are paralyzed with fear. It's not for cowards. It's not for wimps. The spiritual path, Yogananda says, the spiritual path is not for the weak or cowardly. And the Bhagavad Gita tells us the same thing. It's for fighters. And so Christ is saying to his disciple, you are fighters. You don't want to just limit yourself by loving people that it's easy to love and being friendly with the people that, that it's easy for you to be friendly to. That all the way through, we have to have a certain courage to face the inevitable changes that are our lives. Many people in this room, many people online that are watching, have had incredible, violent changes in their lives. And many of us will face them at some point. And often those are the times when we accept God into helping us. We don't have to only do it then, but in the Bhagavad Gita, the part where Arjuna is this great warrior, he's the best archer in all the land, and he's about to go into battle, which is the metaphorical battle on the field of Kurukshetra, the battle for our spiritual lives, our spiritual selves. And he is not exactly afraid of death. He's just very muddled in his mind about what's the right thing to do. And he gets taken in the chariot by Krishna to the middle of this battlefield before it starts. And he's so torn and dejected, he loses heart, he loses courage. You know, the word for courage, the root word is from heart, from kur, from all the Romance languages, kur and corazon. And he collapses, and he's not afraid. It's not really fear. It's the uncertainty. He's not sure what the right thing to do is. Should I fight and kill my cousins? You know, these are my friends. These are my teachers. Should I really fight with them? And the interesting thing right at that point is Krishna gives him a pep talk. But first, Krishna listens to him express all his confusion. He doesn't just say, buck it up and go out there and be courageous. He listens to what the confusion is. And this is every time we go in our minds to figure out the right thing to do and to figure out how to actually pray for someone who is, you know, our adversary in some way, small way or big way. It is all the internal muck, all the confusion, all the uncertainty that's there. Yogananda had a vow for the monks and nuns at Mount Washington. And it was published in the 1936 edition of Whispers from Eternity, which Carmenza just read from. And it wasn't published again after that, but we do have it. And it's called the Renunciates Valiant Vow. It's not called the Renunciates Vow. It's not called the Renunciates Inner Vow. It's called the Renunciates Valiant Vow, because it is all about from the very get-go about having courage to face this struggle, all of our struggles, all of our little addictions, our big addictions, they're all subsumed under fear, and most of the time we can't even name our fear. We just know it's fear. And some people say, well, it's the fear of death, is kind of the mother of all fears, and that's kind of behind everything. And a lot of times if we get to play out, well, what are we really afraid of? What's the worst thing that's going to happen? It's not death usually. But just as in this reading, if we rehearse that fear of death 1,000 times, because the good thing about death is it only happens once for us. I love what Woody Allen says about death. He said, it's not that I'm afraid to die, it's just that I'd rather not be there when it happens. How's that for a fear that's masquerading as a dislike? I'd rather not do that. So our dislikes and our likes also become a mask or a cover for our fears. So the Renunciates Valiant Vow, there's many lines. I think that the one that's probably most familiar to you is, I will reason, I will act, but guide thou my reason, will, and action. This is, I will put out the energy, but please God, guide me too. And that's all this is all about. And so Yogananda says, the sincere truth seeker tells himself, I know what an arduous task it must be to achieve perfection, but I will give it all I have. With God's help, success surely must be mine. And I think Yogananda's reminding us, there's other nice reminders in Swami's writing about this passage from the Bible. It talks about being impersonal. And that's been a confusing teaching for a lot of us. How can we be warm and friendly and connect with people and still be impersonal? But it's really about being impersonal with ourselves. It's really about, hearing the little whining in our back of our mind about, oh, do I have to get out of bed right now? Or, do I have to come and give Sunday service? Or do I have to do this? Or do I have to clean up? It's hearing all that and then sort of saying, move ahead anyways. It's really not about being impersonal with other people so much as being impersonal with that which is our fears, our dislikes, So Yogananda tells us that at any given moment, you have all the courage, all the strength, and intelligence necessary to overcome any seeming difficulty. Become still, mentally and physically. Retire to your center of poise within, and commune with your Father there. He will show you the way. Without heroism and courage, the mind becomes amenable to all passing sorrows. When we think of the hero, it's interesting, there's all these movies now with superheroes, and they all have some unique power, and they all struggle to find it and retain it, and of course they're victorious in the end. But going back to Arjuna and the Gita, Arjuna's collapsed, his spine is collapsed, his fortitude is collapsed, he's confused by the uncertainty. And it's only then that he's able, because he's a very competent person, he's not as scared of dying, he's not afraid of battles. It's up until that point, his skills and his talents have got him through everything, have met every challenge. And it's only at that point that he realizes that I can't do it on my own. I can't be the sole hero of my life's drama. And that's what we need to realize. We cannot be the soul, S-O-L-E, the only hero of our drama. We have to heroically pull in God, and God's going to run to us like the best mother in the world right away as soon as we open our heart to that. May we all be blessed to take this challenging step every day, every way, and use these practices that we have of meditation and stillness to develop that purity in us, to help us overcome that fearful, hardwired nature. God bless us all.